fellow citizens from the village of Wesley. This is the first of many interviews that we're going to be doing, and the purpose of this is to try to preserve the history of Wesley. I realize that a lot of our elderly people are leaving us fairly quickly, and we have not been able to harness some of that history so we can stay connected with where we came from. And so this afternoon, I'm sitting here with a gentleman that you guys know very well, and you may have recognized through the video as Mr. Arnold Telemaque. And he's going to take us back a little bit, and we have quite a few questions we want to ask, and hopefully we can get some information that can help you to determine who your relatives are, where you came from, that kind of stuff. So, Mr. Arnold, go ahead and take it away. Can you tell us who you are for the records?
Well, I think I'm well known in Wesley. My name is Arnold Telemaque, second son of the late Jones Horatius Hamilton Telemaque and his wife Mary Virginia.
Wow, that's some long names, Mr. Arnold. So can you give us, let's take us back a little bit into the past. What I believe a lot of us would like to know is, what was life like growing up as a boy in your days?
Well, two different settings now. When we were growing, it was a different thing. There's a lot of respect in the village, where young ones respected older ones. On the road, at home, at school, in church, everywhere, respect was something common and well known by young people.
So you say it's not the same anymore?
No, it's not the same. Things are quite different.
So what do you think contributed to that decline in morals and ethics in the community?
Well, a number of things. Perhaps the people don't think as we used to think before. They're not God-fearing. And children perhaps are not getting the right training. Perhaps I shouldn't say so. Maybe so in some cases.
Okay.
But in many cases they're getting the right training, but the influence outside affects them negatively. And you have things happening that should not be happening. You have them being affected negatively. And a number of things happening in the community.
You and my dad are around the same age group, aren't you?
Yeah, William and I,
okay.
Born the same year.
Okay, because my dad has given me some stories about what life used to be like. So can you take us back to the 30s and sort of bring us there and let us get a sort of feel as to what life was like for you growing up as a boy. You seem to me like a boy used to be very troublesome.
Oh yes. According to some people, that is my surname. I laugh at that now, realizing that that's a normal thing for boys to be troublesome. Some can be very quiet, but most boys are troublesome, and I used to be one of them. Different from my brother Reuben. Reuben was more quiet and reserved, but I was more talkative and active and troublesome.
Can you give us a scenario, something that happened then that might be humorous to you now?
So many things happen where sometimes when I would fight at school or fight in the community and somebody would bring a complaint to Mommy. Now remembering, Mommy was a teacher. Mommy was the assistant teacher in Wesley Village, in Wesley Government School. And when, teachers in those days, according to the copy, they hand me light. They used to flog. So when I come to Mommy about Arnold hitting somebody or misbehaving, you're going to get a flogging. not only flogging, to say it was only flogging, that's just a little humorous, but you get a scolding, a warning, a teaching, something that will help to make you better and not to commit the offense again. And the reasons why you should not commit that offense, the reason why you should not hit children, the reason why you must bring a complaint instead of hitting back, the reason of bringing a complaint instead of telling back.
So instead of just flogging you, they will give you a whole life lesson.
Oh yes, sometimes according to the offense, you get both a flogging and a warning. But many times you get a warning, a lecture. And these lectures are not only happening when, or given when we committed an offense, but daily, at morning prayer, at night, after supper, there'll be talks, lectures, advices given to us since from our early ages. Every time, teenage, this was not missing at all.
So families were, you think families were more together in those times? Was there a higher percentage of fathers in the home at that time?
Well, to some extent, things were, in different respects, things were the same in certain respects. And you find there were those fathers who were committed to their homes and would be part of the upbringing of the children. There were those. There were still those who would not care and believe it is something effeminate, something woman-like, something womanish to have to do with children. That all the man must do is the hard work and bring in. And the rearing of the children, the upbringing of the children is for the ladies, it's for the women, for the mothers.
So most of the discipline was done by the female
Mothers, yes.
mothers.
Only very serious offenses sometimes will be referred to the father.
Wow. So the fathers were like the Moses of the time.
Yeah.
You only handle the severe things.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I was just over at Auntie Hetty this morning. Actually, we go out to the communities on Mondays and Thursdays. We do our visits in the community. And I was over at Auntie Hetty, and she was giving me a history too about life in Wesley. And I understood from her that this whole section of street on which you now live had a lot of thatched houses. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We used to call them trash house. They were made from the leaves of cane straw. And of course, they were very exposed to danger like catching fire or rotting and leaking. It tells us, or it gives the information that in those days poverty was rife, was common. There were people who lived, first of all, in very small houses, up to not very long ago. I lived in a small house. People in Wesley know my house before I built this house in which I live. It is a pretty small house. And I shared what happened in Wesley many years ago because that was the situation in recent times also. It is quite different now.
So can you recall any incident that occurred in one of those houses? Maybe a fire or something?
Oh, you mean the thatch houses?
Thatch houses,
No, I can't remember if any fire. I wonder if I can remember if any fire caught in any of them. I may not remember right now, but I remember, my troublesome attitude. One time we had a kitchen that was thatched, and we were slaughtering an animal, and I was holding the bottle lamb, which we call the buzai.
Buzai, this is the buzai. You guys remember the buzai, right?
And we need troublesome guy there to go. And I was, when I was holding on the buzai like that, for them to see, to do what they're doing. I just thought it best just to touch it on something.
Up went the
shot. And then they quickly, luckily for us, there's a bucket of water nearby. And they got the bucket of water and put it out. They didn't give me a flogging.
You didn't get a flogging?
No, I didn't get a flogging, but I don't.
You escaped that time.
They took out the bottle lamp from me, so it's troublesome.
Wow. No, I noticed, one of the things I noticed with you, Mr. Arnold, is that you seldom go anywhere without your wife. And that's one thing I've noticed with people in your age group who are very close to their spouse or their spouses. They travel together, they do a lot of things together. How long have you been married?
May coming will give us 59 years, really.
59 years?
Yes, 59 years.
Wow.
So I mean,
that's longer than I've lived, Mr.
Oh, yes. And sometimes when I think of, when I talk about it, it gets me emotional. All now it gets me emotional.
Wow.
The reason, 59 years, I'll tell you why. In 1958 or 59, thereabout, I nearly lost her.
Yeah.
Before we were married, in the time of typhoid fever. She had taken me with typhoid fever and was in Portsmouth Hospital. After they gave up hope and I married her, she was transferred to Portsmouth. And I used to be bothered. I used to go to Portsmouth every day to see her. Until one time they sent me to Rosa to get a drug that was made in Portsmouth. The hospital, it was not in the hospital, and the drugstore in Portsmouth didn't have it, so they sent me to Rosa. So I had to take a Portsmouth truck to come down to Portsmouth to bring it. So during that time I was traveling on a Wesley truck. I wouldn't say who the driver was. So the driver, I was worried and talking about my girlfriend at the time that is very ill and who may die. And bothered and worried. And he told me, I do see, I cannot understand you. I do see how if it's me, that would trouble me at all. Oh, my girlfriend in the throes of death, and I'm bothered and worried. You know, if it's me, that would trouble me. I wouldn't call the person's name. That was heartless. But it makes me feel a way up to now when the person told me so. And the love has grown until one day I gave well, I'll tell you what I used to do when I see a girl and I want to approach her. Fellas used to make talk. I used to get on my pen and paper because I knew I could do that right.
You were a writer.
Yeah, I could do very well. And what happened, I read a letter writer in town. I was going to school. And I remember some of the contents of the letter.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to use that whenever I talk to a girl. I just say, hi, I come and tell her, I want to see you. I pen what I have to say.
Yes.
And when we want to, both my brother and I, when we want to go further, would inform our parents by putting a letter on what we call a sideboard under glass, writing a letter, putting the information there, who the person is, what is our intention and whatnot. And
so was that to get consent from your parents? Was that a form of
just
consent?
giving information to let them know what's happening and to get advice as to what's the best thing to do in the family, etc., etc. So I can remember when I did that. Well, I'd written to Olivet's father first. I'd gone to him, so he told me, yes, you come to me. But he showed me, that's good, but he wants it
in writing.
Writing. So I didn't hesitate. And when I did that, I gave Mommy and Papi theirs under the glass on the sideboard. When they see the letter addressed to them, they take it up and quickly opened it and read it.
It seemed like it was something that a lot of people in those days were very, very serious about. I went through my experience too, even at a young age at that end, and you were part of that too. We won't talk about it today because the focus is on you, but that's very interesting. So when you met Tante Olivet, how did you guys meet, by the way?
What she used to do she used to live at her brother, helping with the children. Her brother was married to a teacher at the Western Government School. And I used to pass going up by my friend, my cousin, Arnold Telemaque. So seeing this girl, this really just smiled at me. But there was, when the need came for a friend or a girlfriend, I wrote a letter and gave to my friend to give to her.
You call it as a gooseberry, huh?
Yeah. And she replied to me and told me, yes, if you're serious, you know what to do. Go to my father.
To my father. Boy.
So
you don't find this kind of stuff in all times in this present.
Not again. Things have taken a change, a turn.
If you like me, go to my father. You guys listening to that? Hey, I'm talking to Mr. Arnold Telemaque. This is the first of many interviews we're going to be doing in the community of Wesley, and this is very interesting. And it's just so relaxing to sit back and to listen to men of that stature. Just rehearse the past and take us back into what life was like growing up for them in the community. To see how much we have changed over time. And how much people were so very concerned about the lives of their children. You know, it's very interesting to me that the girl that you love would say to you, if you're really serious about pursuing me, you got to talk to my dad.
Yes, so
this is good.
So when I went to the dad told me, yes, you come to me verbally, but I wanted in writing.
Wanted in writing.
So I didn't hesitate, and I informed my parents also with the letter on the side, with under the glass, that I was doing that. And things went on until when it took a turn when we had to be married. I became in charge now. And I went to the home and I gave them an appointment to meet me at my father's home and mother's home in a meeting, which I'll be chairing.
Yeah.
And I'll be the speaker.
Oh my goodness. What? Oh boy.
So they came. Mother and father came, met with my mother and father, and my wife and myself, and I chaired the meeting.
Oh, serious business.
Yes, and I gave them a date, proposed date for my marriage. And they asked me to make it a little later for sake of size of family and need for more members of the family to be there. So I acceded to the request, and I gave only 1 more month.
So let me ask you. So at the time, were you working? Were you already employed?
No, I was self-employed.
You were self-employed at the time.
Yeah, at the time. And things were.
And how old were you then? Mind me asking.
25.
You were 25.
Yes. Wow. And your aunt was a bit younger, much younger than I was at the time.
Wow. Man, are you guys listening to this? This is good. I'm very sure you guys are enjoying this information, taking us back, and then so getting a little glimpse into Mr. Arnold's personal life. He's sort of opening up here and letting us in. I'm sure you are learning from an experienced man from the past as to what life was like growing up for him in our community. You know, Mr. Arnold is also was also a fireman and served for how many years did you serve in the fire service?
28 plus, almost 29.
Almost 29 years of service in the fire department, and also he served as well in the village of Wesley as a chairman of the council, and also as a member of the council as well.
Yes, chairman of the council.
Okay, and also he served he wore a lot of hats. He served as well as a local preacher in the Methodist Church, from where a lot of us from the community came from. We'll talk about it in a little while, the impact that the Methodist Church had on the community of Wesley. But take us back a little bit into your vocation and life as a fire officer in Dominique.
Well, when I joined the fire officer, sorry, not the fire officer, when I joined the fire services, I did not join the fire services because I wanted to be a fireman, or firefighter rather. I really did like a firefighter, not fireman. Fireman describes another occupation. The dictionary gives the type of fireman to one who stokes a fire, one who causes this fire to continue to burn. He puts
Yes.
wood in the fire.
Yeah.
Firefighter bring this fire to an end.
That would be
and save
more
his life.
applicable to a steamboat. You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a factory.
Or factory.
Yes. So when I joined the fire services, not because I loved it, although I had learned what we used to call at school a recitation in days of my mother, we set to work at once to save the people on the place. That's the main function of the fireman, or the fire officer, firefighter, to save the people on life and property. When I joined that, I joined up because things were brown at the time. And that's the only way I found I could get a quick money and to help with things at home, my family, to pay up the rent and to help us in what we were doing. And here the salary at the time. And that was about the same salary the policeman was getting, $90 per month.
Oh my goodness. $90 a month.
Yes, so I left and I went on to Roseau, but not after Mr. Cousins, the chief of police from Jamaica. He was also chief fire officer. So then, when he saw that I'd gone to high school, he tried to get me in the police force because they used to look down before, which is wrong and very wrong. They used to look down before in the firefighting occupation,
Right.
profession, not only the firefighting profession, they used to look down on it before. Not just applying of water to burning material. And for the main purpose for which it existed or it was created, to save life and property from destruction by fire.
Wow.
That is why the fire service exists.
Okay.
And then when he saw that I was not coming because he wanted to tell me that there were no more vacancies in the fire service, if I would mind joining the police force, I told him no. I told them to say no. Until when they found that I wasn't coming, then they sent the appointment for me to come as a firefighter. So when I went to thank them and to tell them I'm no more interested. But the kind of reception I got, I just had to send for my my clothes in Wesley and came on to meet me in Roseau.
And you quickly moved up the ranks to being in the managerial. Yes. Yeah.
With the hope that I was not going to remain in Roseau, but move to Melbourne all in quick time. And in 6 months' time, I was moved to Melbourne Hall. And I moved up the ranks quickly. In 3 years and 6 months, I was up first rung of the ladder, first promotion as an acting sub-officer. And then later on, 4 years, I was a sub-officer appointed. And then I started to move up until I went to Trinidad. I was trained in Trinidad 3 times and in England once for 4 months in England. And I didn't become chief because the chief and deputy were younger than I was. So then that's why I had to leave before them. But it was clear that if they were older than I was, I would become chief after they have retired.
Wow. That's very interesting. Yeah, you were listening to Mr. Arnold Telemaque again. This is, I'm Cameron Robin. I'm a pastor. I pastor the Wesley Pentecostal Church. But I figured out we are losing a lot of the information that are stored in these guides because nothing is written down. So there's no way to transfer it to the next generation. So what I'm actually trying to do is to archive this information. So we're recording this and we're going to put this on a hard copy and store it in the library. This is something we can go back to, and I'm sure there are lots of other persons in our community with a wealth of information that we can tap in on, and we can keep those for future reference in our community. When people like me would have passed on, and the next generation, children will be, the ones leading in the communities around us. I know things will be very different. They will look back probably and laugh at some of the things we held in high esteem. But but it's always good to go back to your history and sort of to connect and to see where you came from, to see what life was like growing up and the temperament of the people during those times and how they behaved and how they dealt with situation. It's very interesting to listen to learned men and men who are very experienced in their own craft as to how life was like for them in those times, and so let me just pursue this thing a little more. We've heard about his boyhood. We've heard about his connection with his spouse, how he found her, the process he had to go through, and also a portion of his vocation. You also served as a chairman of the council in Wesley. What do you think? What in your opinion is different now than when you served? And we talked about it a little bit before off the camera.
Yes, the village council now is what used to be called before the village board. In the days of Captain Stebbins in 1939, when it was organized. Then that faded until they came up with something. I can't remember exactly the time, but in the name that is time, the village council. I can remember my father and I tried to get him some years ago, and both of us failed. But later on, he was nominated to the council. That went on for some time until my good friend, a very good friend, the late Elford Henry, was chairman of the council. And I might try my best to get him out. Why? Not because we were not good, but because it was an all labeled council. There's
You're talking about politics now.
a lot of it,
Not politics.
and there's only people of one party in the council, definitely. And I tried, and I kept meetings all over Wesley, every corner of Wesley.
So you don't think the council should be politicized?
No, in my opinion, I think it works better. Because I'll tell you what happened. When, after I took over as chairman, what year was it? I can't remember exactly.
Project your voice a little so you can.
After I took over as chairman, there was a storm. And I took two people, because it was a mixed council,
Yeah.
a mixed council of Freedom Party, Labour Party, and UWP. And I took a member of each party, not a member of council who was affiliated with the party.
Okay.
And it's private, it had nothing to do with police council. That is your private concern. You exercise that outside of council.
Okay.
When you go to your meetings, what you have to do, whether your party is in office, because they say power now is in office or not, that has nothing to do with you and your function. So I took two people I knew who were affiliated with different parties, and we went on a survey to see the damage that the storm had caused. And when we submitted our report,
which storm was that?
I don't remember the storm really now. It wasn't a hurricane.
It wasn't a hurricane, was it? A tropical storm.
A tropical storm, yeah. And so on. And that was sort of the way we looked at it. And one of the things that I am proud to say up to now, although I was not a member of just before I left, I was not a member of the ruling party or affiliated to the ruling party, but the minister under whose portfolio the council falls at that time, and I were close friends. I respected him and he respected me. Yes. And one day, I was so happy, or we were so happy that there's a mixed council and things were going so good. And he gave us the permission take a loan from Margaret Credit Union. Government gave us a permission, that permission, you know,
Yeah.
take a loan from the Margaret Credit Union. When you get a monthly allowance from the government, we repay from that.
Yeah.
To work this first part of Phillips Avenue that was pitched for the first time.
Oh wow.
And when they had two of us to sign, two members of the council to sign, Mr. Arnold Telemaque and I signed. And we got the loan and we got somebody to work the road. The council told me, choose which way to begin because the money will not complete the road at one time. So choose which way you want to begin. It's left to you. So I chose up here, not because I was living here, but because there were the Methodist Church as a church, there's the preschool, there's the Christian Union Church, and there's the Adventist Church over here. So then I fall here. So I get the benefit because I fall here, but I didn't.
That was not your motivation.
No. And I introduced it to the council, and the council took the decision, not me. Okay. And let me say quickly that when we took decisions in the council, it wasn't the chairman, it was the council, and the council said no, it was no.
And you guys came out as, as unanimous after the
unanimous.
decision was taken.
And one of the things that was happening in the council is that we allotted responsibility. I recommended a responsibility to everybody, just as what would happen in the government. There were people who were responsible for the senior citizens, and we would report to council every month on the state of the senior citizens and different things, sports. There were two young men responsible for sports, among other things, and so on.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Arnold Telemaque from the village of Wesley and Cameron Robin, and the pastor of the West Pentecostal Church. And we're just having a little chit chat, just going back a little bit, talking about his experience, talking about his past, talking about his boyhood, as we bring it up to you and to sort of get you in and give you sort of like a view. Obviously, we cannot be exhaustive on this because it's an interview. So, but as much as we can get across to you, we would like to do that. Obviously, we would have to do this again, probably another time, to get some more information in. We're going to be just a few more minutes and then we'll close this up. Yeah.
I was saying that people like, it was good to work with people like Mr. Kenneth Telemaque, people like Julian Jeremy, people like William Leslie, better known as Codman, people like Jordan in Africa, and others, people like Mrs. Greenaway, to work with Elford Henry, although we didn't agree at the beginning, but we became close friends. And one of the things, and I want to say so loudly and clearly, for people to understand. It was Elford Henry who I thought was not performing well. I got him out through the help of others, not from the council, but as chairman. But when Elford died, I was in Florida and I cried because his wife called me and told me, he said he's going to Rose with the doctor, but he'll call you when he reaches in town. And I never got a call.
Wow.
We were different, but we were not enemies. We didn't agree on certain things in council and politically, but we were not enemies. And I want to sound it out to everyone. This is my call to you. Stop being enemies because you differ politically.
Wow.
Continue loving each other. This is what God says to do. Thank you very much.
Wow. I'm sure you saw that. And this this speaks so well about the heart of this man and what he feels for the community, which all of us know, and those of us who live here, we are experiencing it on a daily basis. How much politics has divided our communities. While those who are involved are enjoying the pleasure of the financial benefit, people who live in the communities are at odds with one another, and the tension is so harsh and is so real that is dividing even close families, and it's very sad that this is really happening, because I mean I remember growing up as a young boy, that was not so. You differed and you campaigned, but after the campaign was over, that was it. You were friends again, and people worked together to make things happen in the community. I'm really looking to the time when that kind of spirit will return to all communities, and it's very heartrending to listen to Mr. Arnold today, as he just openly showed his emotion to us about what he feels about his community. And this is why I believe this needs to be done. This is why these interviews need to be done, and why we need to hear from these men and women that we will be touching and bringing across to you, so you can actually get a feel as to where they are and what is going on in their own personal lives and how they feel about where we are as a people. Are you able to continue, Mr. Arnold?
Yeah.
Are you good? Okay. I wanted to ask you, because a lot of people that I spoke with, and we'll make this probably the last item we deal with. A lot of people are very concerned about their connection. I've often heard people say that most of the people from Wesley and Marigot, some Woodford, but mostly Wesley and Marigot, they're interconnected, and they're very related. I remember one day my son came home and he said, "Dad, I found this girl that I love," and I started asking questions. I said, "But who is she?" And he told me. I said, "Son, that's your cousin." So he decided, look, I'm not going to look for a wife in Dominica anymore, because everybody I find is my cousin. And so he's married now, but he's married to an American. But it's true that a lot of us are related, but most of us don't know. So what I want you to do, I understand, and I'm speaking particularly, well, because I'm a Robin, I like to know where my roots came from, I mean, obviously. So I was talking to you some time ago, you were telling me that the Robins and the Telemaques are related. And I like to get some of that information. I know some people out there, they're listening and they want to know that too. Tell us a little bit about the Robins and the Telemaques.
Okay. The Robins, not the Robins, but Mrs. Robin. In other words, what we would call in Cocoy, and the local dialect, Masterly.
Mastery. Mildred.
Good, Mildred Masterly.
Okay. Tell us about Miss Mildred. Yeah.
Her mother was Lycia Telemaque, the daughter of Kingston Telemaque.
Was that what we know as Ma Joseph?
Ma Joseph.
Okay.
Good. And my grandfather and Lycia Telemaque's father was Kingston. My great grandfather was January, better known as Bonner, brother of Kingston. And he had a brother also they called Jonas. All three of them lived in Wesley, and also them had property in Wesley. Jonas was not so prolific as Kingston. And
when you say prolific, it means he had a lot of children.
no, he was Jonas didn't have many children.
Okay. That's just his nice way of saying he had a lot of kids. You go ahead.
So Jonas had Manhattan.
Okay, I heard about money.
They used to call her Chunku,
Okay.
and she had long bonnet. And another son they called Meister. Meister went to live in Roseau. He used to do taxiing in those days. And then Lord, they call him Bassi, Manasseh Bonnet.
Yes.
So the only.
So Manasseh was Kingston's son?
Manasseh was Kingston's hold on. Jonas' grandson. Jonas' grandson. Because Jonas had my Nathan, they called Chunku. And Daniel, Mr. Dan, told him, Daniel had JB Telemaque. He was the son of Mr. Dan. Mr. Dan was a very tall, one of the tallest Telemaques ever done, and his son JB.
Okay.
And he was very cool.
I remember JB, the mass. JB
Yes.
the mass, man. JB
And
everybody, man.
Mr. Dan, Uncle Dan used to call him, was very cool and respected. Very cool and respected. When he came to church, he used to come to church regularly. And he used to pray softly. His wife was, I don't remember her name, her maiden name right now, Madame. And she was a Catholic, very polite and soft-spoken lady. Both of them were soft-spoken. Yes.
Well, so that's where the Telemaque Robin connection came. It's through my grandmother
Yes,
and my Joseph.
Joseph, yeah.
Oh, wow. So, and my Joseph had how many other kids? She had Mildred, Dudley, Mary, Kitty, and Sodo.
There's some others, Dudley. Oh boy. Yes, I can't bring them right now. But there's a number of sons. Guilford is called Sodo.
Yeah, that's Sodo. So where did the Tabada connection come? With the Montians and
Tabada came from Kingston.
From Kingston.
Tabada is Kingston's granddaughter.
So who was Tabada? Monty was Tabada's dad.
Yes, and he was the son of Kingston. Yeah. So a lot of intermarrying went on.
Yes, I'm beginning to see that. Okay. All right, folks. So you guys are listening to that. The Telemaques and the Robins connected. Come to Mr. Arnold, and this sounds legitimate. So Tabida. So my Grenfell and my uncle Grenfell, closely related. Okay, we're not gonna go there, Clement. We're not gonna go there, but hey, there's relations all over the place, and so that's a Robin Telemaque connection. Oh my goodness! So this is very interesting. We have learned a lot today from Mr. Telemaque, Mr. Arnold, and obviously that's just a little taste of history, a little taste of genealogy, if you please, and just a little bit of going back into the past and touching some of the things that